It's a Northwest Lifestyle Weekend on Como News. IRG's Health Talk continues.
All right, guests number one today is Ken Gordon, Executive Director at Northwest Association for Biomedical Research. And talking about the strides made in coronavirus vaccines, there are a lot of rumored vaccines out there, Shannon, and here's one person who's doing their part to try to make sure this happens.
Absolutely. We wanted to bring Ken back. He's been on before, but we wanted to bring him back to update us on what is going on with the vaccine and the progress there.
Yeah, it can't come soon enough, and we certainly want to hear what Ken has to say about it. Here is Ken Gordon and Shannon O'Kelly on Como.
Ken, welcome back to Health Talk. Thank you again for coming on with us. How are you?
It's so great to be here, Shannon. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, last time you were on, you're an executive director with Northwest Association for Biomedical Research. Your job is very interesting and very important, by the way. But just tell our listeners, kind of bring us up to speed, review kind of what your job entails and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
So my main job is we run conferences for people who work in biomedical research. And so the three main conferences we run are conferences for people who work with stuff like recombinant DNA. And they have to make sure that that stuff stays safe and stays inside the lab and doesn't go out and actually do some amazingly bad thing in the world. We also work with people who work with animals in research. And as you know, that everything that goes, before you can test anything in a human, you have to test it in an animal. And so we make sure that people who are using animals in research are doing it properly and are following all the ethical guidelines. And lastly, once we have an idea that might work in humans, we also run conferences for people who work with human subjects in research. And what we're doing there is making sure that the human subjects are protected, that they're treated well, that no one's being forced into having experiments done on them and that kind of thing.
Wow.
And so we run 6 or 7 biomedically research conferences every year. We have literally thousands of people come to those conferences. And the important thing about our work is that we need to know that when we go out to the public and talk about research, that our researchers are doing the right thing, because we can't build public trust until we know that our researchers are doing things ethically and legally correctly. And so we do these conferences to make sure things are done well, so then when we go out to the public and talk about research, we can say, this is what's really going on in our research realms.
Okay. Last time you came on, Ken, we were talking about the COVID vaccination or the vaccine. It's been fast-tracked. I think I read the other day there's 75 companies just in, I think, United States that are working on a vaccine. We've been told it's going to be available here, when, how, why. I mean, I'm a little bit confused, and I'm sure the general public is confused. What phase are we in? What is the real kind of background on the vaccine right now with COVID? If you can kind of shed some light based on what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so if you think about the flu vaccine, the flu comes every year, and so every year scientists are looking to try and figure out which variety of the flu is likely to become the one that's going to be hitting us in the world. They test those vaccines in animals first. Once they know it's safe in animals, they then run trials with humans to make sure that they're both safe and effective. So there's two things. We want to make sure the vaccine doesn't do any harm, and secondly, we want to make sure it works. And once they know a vaccine is safe and effective, then they deploy the flu vaccine. And I would encourage everyone to get their flu shot this year, and I had mine, for example, just last weekend. And the same thing's happening with the coronavirus vaccine, excepting that we haven't got a history of 100 years of doing flu vaccines to rely on. And so everything has been started from scratch. And so from the time that coronavirus was put through to the machines and they found out the sequence for the genome, it took 63 days to develop the first vaccine candidate. And so what we're doing now is we're going through a series of phased trials, and each trial involves more and more people to do exactly the same thing we do with the flu vaccine. Is it safe? So is there no side effects with the vaccine? And is it effective? Does the vaccine do what we want it to do? And at the moment, there are 3 companies in America who are doing large-scale trials underway. 2 of them are using a type of vaccine called an RNA vaccine, and so that was the one where they used the sequenced genome from the virus. And another one's using stuff they basically had in the fridge already, and they found that's effective. And the vaccine trials are recruiting between 30 and 75,000 people in their large trials. And so that's the phase we're in at the moment. If you're in the trial, you're either going to get the vaccine or you're going to get a placebo.
Back with more of our conversation with Ken Gordon and Shannon O'Kelly next, right here on Como.
It's a Northwest Lifestyle Weekend on Como News. Here's Tom Hutler and Shannon O'Kelly with more IRG Health Talk.
We continue our conversation with Ken Gordon and Shannon O'Kelly talking about coronavirus vaccines.
Ken, thank you again for joining us, Health Talk. Let's just summarize our conversation earlier. There's about 3 companies in the United States are out in front. It sounds like they're in a phase 2 or 3. They're testing 30 to 75,000 people. Some are getting vaccines and some are getting placebos. Is that pretty fair to say on a review?
That's right. And the idea is that the company then wants those people to go out and live their life, do their normal thing, and then they'll track them. And if you've got a vaccine and you don't get sick, then that's a good indication the vaccine's working. And if you had the placebo and you do get sick, that's also a good indication that the thing's working. And then once those numbers are crunched, then they will know, is this vaccine safe and effective? And once we know that, then we hit the button and we start deploying the vaccine to the whole population.
So, Ken, are we in phase 3? Is that what you would call phase 3?
Yeah.
Is that the last phase? So that's the last phase in research. So if all the data comes back, okay.
Yeah, definitely phase 3. But even once we deploy it, we keep watching it because,
Right.
35 to 75,000 people sounds like a lot of people, but it's not 700 million people. And so we'll keep watching the results to make sure that, again, that's doing the right thing. And the important thing is that we need the entire population to get vaccinated. And this is where the dates are getting confused, because some of these vaccines might be available later this year, but they won't be available to 300 million Americans and 7 billion people in the world until at least the middle of next year. And so we have to keep practicing social distancing, using masks, washing hands, until we know that we've got at least sort of 65 to 85% of the population of the world vaccinated.
Can I ask you a question? I have read and I've heard that there's never been a successful vaccine created for a coronavirus.
The common cold's a coronavirus, and so there's never been a vaccine created for the common cold. But I have to say also, we've never had this much focused effort on a vaccine. And the technology being used is new, and it's incredibly advanced. And the initial trials seem to say that people are getting an antibody response, which is what you want. You want people to have the antibody in their system so that if they get exposed to coronavirus, then they're protected.
The scientists and researchers are building a gene or a piece of RNA or whatever it is that looks and acts like the virus. That comes into your body. Your body says, hey, this is a foreign body or an antigen, and we create an antibody towards that, and then we build immunity. Is that immunity that we're building, is that going to be long-lasting?
The hope is it's long-lasting, but it's too early to tell. And so that's the concern. And we know that, different vaccines are probably going to be more effective for different groups of people, and that's why there are so many trials going on, because one vaccine won't be the silver bullet. There could be several, and depending on what the results are, you might get one, or you might get or another, depending on who you are and your background and your race and everything that goes into that consideration.
Ken, well, again, thank you so much. We're unfortunately out of time. I do want to have you back. Let's try to do this every 4 weeks just to get a checkup. I would love to do that.
Love to do that.
I do have a ton of faith in humanity, by the way, and I know we have some brilliant people out there, including yourself, and thank you for the job that you're doing.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for communicating this all so well.
Shannon, we also talked about not only the coronavirus vaccine, but the public trust in biomedical research and ethical conduct, and that's something that's certainly important in this day and age.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the media, who do you understand? Who do you listen to? Who's telling us the truth? That's why I'm so excited. And having Ken on, just to listen to a person